Welcome. Welcome, friends. My name is Luke Lightbringer, and today we're going to be continuing our exploration on spiritual reality and further study of the Bahai teachings, the teachings of Bahaullahs on the nature of spiritual reality. Let me flip the camera around so that things are read correctly. There we go, true to life. There you go. Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. We've been slowly reading this whole book aloud together on these live streams. We're not quite, maybe almost at halfway full or halfway through. So I want to jump right into here to kick things off, and we can definitely talk back and forth and stuff as we go in between the sections. But we're on chapter 13, which is effort and perseverance. Again, from Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. I will sip my cardamom tea. From the exalted source, and out of the essence of his favor and bounty, he hath entrusted every created thing with a sign of his knowledge, so that none of his creatures may be deprived from its share in expressing each according to its capacity and rank. This knowledge, this sign, is the mirror of his beauty in the world of creation. The greater an effort exerted for the refinement of this sublime and noble mirror, the more faithfully will it be made to reflect the glory of the names and attributes of God, and reveal the wonders of his signs and knowledge. There can be no doubt whatever that in consequence the efforts which every man may consciously exert, and as a result of the exertion of his own spiritual faculties, this mirror can be so cleansed from the dross of earthly defilements and purged from the satanic fancies as to be able to draw nigh unto the meads of eternal holiness and attain the courts of everlasting fellowship. O ye friends, exert ye an effort, for every expenditure is in need of an income. This day in the world of humanity, men are at all the time expending, for war is nothing but the consumption of men and of wealth. At least engage ye in a deed of profit for the world of humanity, that ye may partially compensate for that loss. Perchance through the divine confirmations ye may be assisted in promulgating amity and concord among men, in substituting love for enmity, in causing universal peace to result from universal war, and in converting loss and rancor into profit and love. With clear vision, we are enabled to struggle onward and upward, ever progressing in the paths of virtue and holiness, and becoming the means of the light of the world. Speech is not needed. Our actions will help on the world, will spread civilization, will help the progress of science, and cause the arts to develop. Without action, nothing in the material world can be accomplished. Neither words unaided advance a man in the spirit. Neither can words unaided advance a man in the spiritual kingdom. It is not through lip service only that the elect of God have attained to holiness, but by patient lives of active service they have brought light into the world. Therefore strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Let each morn be better than its eve, and each tomorrow richer than yesterday. Man's merit lieth in service and virtue, not in the pageantry of wealth and riches. Guard against idleness and sloth, and cling on to which profiteth mankind, whether young or old, whether high or low. Make ye a mighty effort till you yourselves betoken this advancement in all these confirmations, and become focal centers of God's blessings, day springs, and the light of his unity. Promoters of the gifts and graces of civilized life, be ye in that land vanguards of perfections of humankind. Carry forward the various branches of knowledge, be active and progressive in the field of inventions and the arts, endeavor to rectify the conduct of men, and seek to excel the whole world in moral character. While the children are yet in their infancy, feed them from the breast of heavenly grace, foster them in the cradle of all excellence, rear them in the embrace of bounty. Give them the advantage of every useful kind of knowledge. Let them share in every new and rare and wondrous craft and art. Bring them up to work and strive, and accustom them to hardship. Teach them to dedicate their lives to matters of great import, and to inspire them to undertake studies that will benefit mankind. Thus they shall learn perseverance in all things, the will to advance, high-mindedness and high resolve, chastity and purity of life. Thus shall they be enabled to carry a successful conclusion whatsoever they undertake. We must strive with energies of the heart, soul, and mind to develop and manifest the perfections and virtues latent within the realities of the phenomenal world. For the human reality may be compared to a seed. If we sow the seed, a mighty tree appears from it. The virtues of the seed are revealed in the tree. Similarly, the merciful God, our Creator, has deposited within human realities certain latent and potential virtues. Through education and culture, these virtues are deposited by the loving God, will become apparent in the human reality, even as the unfoldment of the tree from within the germinating seed. That was Effort and Perseverance, which is chapter 13 of Bahaullahs' teachings on spiritual reality. Wow. I think that is quite beautiful. I think it is quite meaningful, and I think it's quite true in terms of the nature of our reality and our experience here. And beyond even that, I think it is inspiring as to what it means to be the best possible human. I think, even if you're a materialist, a humanist, I think that can really speak to the way you think people ought to be and the innate respect for our higher nature that I think a lot of people have, whether they're religious or spiritual or not. And I think it touches on the goodness of those attributes of ourselves as well. So that's actually the end of part 2. And so the next section is part 3. And we're going to plow on through. Again, so this will be part 3 of Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. Take a screenshot if you want. It's available for free online. You can Google Bahai Reference Library. Also, that's how you spell Bahai. Bahai.org is more information. So this is Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality, and we're beginning part 3, which is material and spiritual reality. And I'm sure this is going to be a fascinatingly deep exploration of what really is. So we begin. In the modern world, the social, intellectual, and economic concerns of humanity are rooted in preoccupation with material reality. Consideration of a spiritual reality, if not judged to be overt superstition, is viewed as a private matter that has nothing to do with the public concerns of work or social order. In such a perspective, spirituality is to be sought apart from the real world of daily life. The teachings of Baha'u'llah describe a dynamic coherence between spiritual and material reality. The material world is a matrix through which the spiritual powers and capacities find expression. It's like a framework. Though immersed in a material environment and having a physical component to his nature, man is endowed with a spirit that gives him abilities that surpass those of a mere animal. While the animal is the captive of nature, man dominates nature through his mind and spirit. It is impossible that man, who demonstrates powers superior to those found in nature, can be merely the product of the physical world. Now, I'll pause here to ask a question. What else is asking why? Not just why what you see, not why what you hear, you sense, But why, oh, why am I? What else is doing that, is what I'll ask the audience here. So I'll go back a couple sentences and continue. It is impossible that man who demonstrates the powers superior to those found in nature can be merely the product of the physical world. The divine qualities of God are reflected in these human qualities, but an understanding of the reality of God lies far beyond the powers of human comprehension. The divine spirit which finds expression in man is manifested to a limited degree in all creation. Indeed, according to Bahaullahs, the entire physical world is a reflection of the spiritual one. The physical world is a place where human beings acquire knowledge of God and through their relationship with Him learn about spiritual reality. So that's the introduction to part 3 of Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. It's titled Material and Spiritual Reality, this section. Now, we can continue. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat or comments. And we love getting into things like that, getting into the weeds with stuff there. But we'll continue for now. So the physical world is chapter 14. Again, just because people cycle in and out, Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. The temple of the world hath been fashioned after the image and likeness of the human body. In fact, each mirroreth forth the image of the other. Wert thou but to observe with discerning eyes, by this is meant that even as the human body in this world, which is outwardly composed of different limbs and organs, is in reality a closely integrated, coherent entity. Similarly, the structure of the physical world is like unto a single being whose limbs and members are inseparably linked together. Were one to observe with an eye that discovereth the reality of all things, it would become clear that the greatest relationship that bindeth the world of being together lieth in the range of created things themselves. And that cooperation, mutual aid, and reciprocity are essential characteristics in the unified body of the world of being, insomuch as all created things are closely related together, and each is influenced by the other or direct benefit therefrom, either directly or indirectly. This is talking about how all things are interconnected. Consider for an instance how one group of created things constitute the vegetable kingdom, and another the animal kingdom. Each of these two maketh use a certain elements in the air on which its own life dependeth, while each increaseth the quantity of such elements as are essential for the life of another. In other words, the growth and development of the vegetable world is impossible without the existence of the animal kingdom, and the maintenance of animal life is inconceivable without the cooperation of the vegetable kingdom. Of like kind are the relationships that exist among all created things. Hence it was stated that cooperation and reciprocity are essential properties which are inherent in the unified system of the world of existence, and without which the entire creation would be reduced to nothingness. The elemental atoms which constitute all phenomenal existence and being in this illimitable universe are in perpetual motion, undergoing continuous degrees of progression. For instance, let us conceive of an atom in the mineral kingdom possessing upwards to the kingdom of vegetable by entering into the composition and fiber of a tree or a plant. From thence it is assimilated and transferred into the kingdom of the animal, and finally, by the law and process of composition, becomes part of the body of man. That is to say, it has transversed the intermediate degrees and stations of phenomenal existence, entering into the composition of various organisms in its journey. This motion or transference is progressive and in perpetuity. After disintegration of the human body into which it has entered, it returns to the mineral kingdom from whence it came, and will continue to traverse the kingdoms of phenomenon as before. This is an illustration designed to show that the constituent elements, elemental atoms of phenomena, undergo progressive transference and motion through the material kingdoms. In its ceaseless progression and journeying, the atom becomes imbued with the virtues and powers of each degree or kingdom it traverses. In the degree of the mineral, it possesses mineral affinities. In the kingdom of the vegetable, it possesses the argumentative virtue or power of growth. In the animal kingdom, it is reflected in the intelligence of that degree. In the kingdom of man, it was quantified with human attributes or virtues. Furthermore, the forms and organisms of phenomenal being and existence in each of the kingdoms of the universe are myriad and numberless. The vegetable plane or kingdom, for example, has its infinite variety of types and mineral structures of plant life, each distinct from and different within itself. No two exactly alike in composition and detail, for there are no repetitions in nature, and the argumentative virtue cannot be confined to any given image or shape. Each leaf has its own particular identity, so to speak, its own individuality as a leaf. Therefore, each atom of the innumerable elemental atoms during this ceaseless motion through the kingdoms of existence as a constituent of organic composition not only becomes imbued with the powers and virtues of the kingdoms it traverses, but also reflects the attributes and qualities of the forms and organisms of those kingdoms. As each of these forms has its individual and particular virtue, therefore, each elemental atom of the universe has the opportunity of expressing an infinite variety of those individual virtues. No atom is bereft or deprived of this opportunity or right of expression, nor can it be said of any given atom that it is denied equal opportunities with other atoms. Nay, all are privileged to possess the virtues existent in these kingdoms and to reflect the attributes of their organisms. In the various transformations or passages from kingdom to kingdom, the virtues expressed by the atoms in each degree are peculiar to that degree. For example, the world of the mineral, the atom does not express the vegetable form and organism. And when through the process of transmutation it assumes the virtues of the vegetable degree, it does not reflect the attributes of the animal organisms, and so on. Know that the order and the perfection of the whole universe require that existence should be in numberless forms, for existing beings could not be embodied in only one degree, one station, one kind, one species, and one class. Undoubtedly, the difference of degrees and distinction of forms and the varieties of genus and species are necessary. That is to say, the degree of mineral, vegetable, animal substances and of man are inevitable, for the world could not be arranged, adored, organized, and perfected with man alone. Wow. In the same way, with only animals, only plants or minerals, this world could not show forth beautiful scenery, extract organization and exquisite adornment. Without doubt, it is because the varieties of degrees, stations, species, and classes that existence becomes resplendent on utmost perfection. Nature is that condition, that reality, which in appearance consists of life and death, or in other words, in composition and decomposition of all things. The nature is subjected to an absolute organization, to determined laws, to a complete order and a finished design, from which it will never depart. to such a degree indeed that if you look carefully and with keen sight from the smallest visible atom up to the large bodies of the world of existence as the globe of the sun and the other great stars and luminous spheres, wherever you regard their arrangement, their composition, their form, or their movement, you will find that all are in the highest degree of organization and are under one law from which they will never depart. But when you look at nature itself, you will see that it has no intelligence, no will. For that instance, the nature is of fire is to burn. It burns without will or intelligence. The nature of water is fluidity. It flows without will or intelligence. Thus it is clear that the natural movements of all things are compelled. There is no voluntary movements except those of animals, and above all those of man. Now, when you behold in existence such organizations, arrangements, and laws, can you say that all of these are the effect of nature, though nature has neither intelligence nor perception? If not, it becomes evident that this nature, which has neither perception nor intelligence, is in the grasp of Almighty God, who is the ruler of the world of nature. Whatever he wishes, he causes nature to manifest. One of the things which has appeared in the world of existence, and which is one of the requirements of nature, is human life. Considered from this point of view, man is the branch, nature is the root. Then can the will and intelligence and the perfections which exist in the branch be absent in the root. It is said that nature is its own essence in the grasp of the power of God, who is the eternal Almighty One. He holds nature within accurate regulations and laws, and he rules over it. Wow. Friends, what did you think about that? That was a description of the physical world according to the Bahai teachings, the words of Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality, available for free online. Bahai.org, screenshot, that's how you spell it. Screenshot that. So you spell that. You can read it for free online, but we're going to continue reading it here. We can also discuss it. I'll check the chat here in a second. If you guys are finding something meaningful out of this, I certainly am. I'm reading it for the first time. Really, undergoing this process of study, and I thought, why not open up that journey to be shared? So that's what I've done, and I think it's also very beneficial. They say the best way to learn something, to deeply learn something, is to teach it. And, well, I guess I wouldn't exactly call this teaching. I'm sharing the teachings of someone else. It's helpful. I think it's helpful to read things aloud and to really think deeply and to analyze and talk about them. So, doing this with the camera on is very beneficial to my studies for the things I'm here to do. It's very progressive towards the goal I'm trying to achieve. So with that in mind, we will jump further in, and we're going to read from chapter 15, which is evolution and human capacity. I'm sure that will be an interesting one. We're reading Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. Okay, one more sip of tea here, and then we'll jump in. Chapter 15, Evolution and Human Capacity. Life on this earth is very ancient. It is not 100,000 or 200,000 or 1 million or 2 million years old. It is very ancient, and the ancient records and traces are entirely obliterated. Moses taught that the world was brought into existence in 6 days of creation. This is an allegory, a symbolic form of the ancient truth that the world evolved gradually. We thus must have a progressive process of creation and not a one-time happening. Moses' days of creation represent time span in millions or billions of years. The beginning of the existence of man on the terrestrial globe resembles his formation in the womb of the mother. The embryo in the womb of the mother gradually grows and develops until birth, after which it continues to grow and develop until it reaches the age of discretion and maturity. Though in infancy the signs of the mind and spirit appear in man, they do not reach the degree of perfection. They are imperfect. Only when a man attains maturity do the mind and spirit appear and become evident in utmost perfection. So also the formation of man in the matrix of the world was in the beginning like an embryo. Then gradually he made progress into perfectness. He grew and developed until he reached a state of maturity, when the mind and spirit became visible in the greatest power. In the beginning of his formation, the mind and spirit also existed, but they were hidden. Later they were manifested. In the womb of the world, mind and spirit also existed in the embryo, but they were concealed. Afterwards they appeared. So it is that the seed of the tree exists, but it is hidden and concealed. When it develops and grows, the complete tree appears. In the same way, the growth and development of all beings is gradual. This is the universal divine organization and natural system. The seed does not at once become a tree. The embryo does not at once become a man. The mineral does not suddenly become a stone. No, they grow and develop gradually and attain the limit of perfection. All beings, whether large or small, were created perfect and complete from the first, but their perfections appear in them by degrees. The organization of God is one. The evolution of existence is one. The divine system is one. Whether they be small or great beings, all are subject to one law and system. Each seed has in it from the first all vegetable perfections. For example, in the seed, all the vegetable perfections exist from the beginning, but not visibly. Afterward, little by little, they appear. So it is the first shoot which appears from the seed, then the branches, leaves, blossoms, and fruits. But from the beginning of its existence, all of these things are in the seed, potentially, though not apparently. In the same way, the embryo possesses from the first all perfections, such as the spirit, the mind, the sight, the smell, the taste, in one word, all of the powers, but they are not visible and become only so by degrees. Similarly, the terrestrial globe from the beginning was created with all its elements, substances, minerals, atoms, and organisms, but these only appeared by degrees. First the mineral, then the plant, afterwards the animal, and finally the man. But from first these kinds and species existed, they were underdeveloped in the terrestrial globe. They appeared only gradually for the supreme organization of God and the universal natural system surround all beings, and they are all subject to this rule. When you consider this universal system, you see that there is not one of the beings which at its coming into existence has reached the limit of perfection. No, they gradually grow and develop, and then they attain the degree of perfection. In the world of existence, man has transversed successive degrees until he has attained the human kingdom. In each degree of his progression, he has developed capacity for advancement to the next station and condition. While in the kingdom of the mineral, he was attaining the capacity for promotion into the degree of the vegetable. In the kingdom of the vegetable, he underwent preparation for the world of the animal, and from thence he was come onward to the human kingdom, throughout his journey of progression, he has ever and always been potentially man. In all physical respects, and where the animal spirit is concerned, the self-same feelings are shared by animal and man. We cannot prove man was always man, for this is a fundamental doctrine, but it is based on the assertion that nothing can exceed its own potentialities, that everything, a stone, a tree, an animal, and a human being, existed in plan, potentially from the very beginning of creation. We don't believe man has always had the form of man, but rather that from the outset he was going to evolve into the human form and species and not be a haphazard branch of the ape family. Moreover, these members, these elements, these compositions which are found in the organism of man are an attraction and magnet for the spirit. It is certain that the spirit will appear in it. So a mirror which is clear will certainly attract the rays of the sun. It will become luminous, and wonderful images will appear in it. That is to say, when these existing elements are gathered together according to the natural order and with perfect strength, they become a magnet for the spirit, and the spirit will become manifest in them with all of its perfections. Under these conditions, it cannot be said, what is the necessity for the rays of the sun to descend upon the mirror? For the connection which exists between the reality of things, whether they be spiritual or material, requires that when the mirror is clear and faces the sun, the light of the sun must become apparent in it. In the same way, when the elements are arranged and combined in the most glorious system, organization, and manner, the human spirit will appear and be manifest in them. All of these endless beings which inhabit the world, whether man, animal, vegetable, or mineral, whatever they may be, are surely each one of them composed of elements. There is no doubt that this is perfection, which is in all beings, is caused by the creation of God from the composing of elements, by their appropriate mingling and proportionate quantities, the mood of their composition, and the influence of other beings. For all beings are connected together like a chain, and reciprocal help, assistance, and interaction belonging to the properties of things are the causes of existence, development, and growth of created beings. It is confirmed through the evidences and proofs that every being universally acts upon other beings, either absolutely or through association. Finally, the perfection of each individual being, that is to say, the perfection which you now see in man or apart from him, with regard to their atoms, members, or powers, is due to the composition of the elements, to their measure, to their balance, to the mode of their combination, and to mutual influence. When all of these are gathered together, then man exists. As perfection of man is entirely due to the composition of the atoms or elements, to their measure, to the method of their combination, to the mutual influence and actions of different beings, then, since man was produced 10 or 100,000 years ago from these earthly elements with the same measure and balance, then the same method of combination and mingling, and the same influence of other beings, exactly the same man existed then as now. This is evident and not worth debating. 1,000 million years hence, if these elements of man are gathered and arranged in this special proportion, and if the elements are combined according to the same method, and if they are affected by the same influence of other beings, exactly the same man will exist. For example, if after 100,000 years there is oil, fire, a wick, a lamp, and the lighter of the lamp briefly, if all of these necessities which now exist, the exact same lamp will be attained. That's powerful stuff right there. In the different, in the different, different, in the different, in the differentiation, the making different of life in this world of existence, the different differentiation. In the differentiation of life in the world of existence, there are 4 degrees or kingdoms: the mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. The mineral kingdom is possessed of certain virtue which we term cohesion. The vegetable kingdom possesses cohesive properties plus the power of growth or argumentative power. The animal kingdom is possessive of the virtues of mineral and vegetable, plus the powers of the senses. But the animal, although gifted with sensibilities, is utterly bereft of consciousness, absolutely out of touch with the world of consciousness and spirit. The animal possesses no power by which it can make discoveries which lie beyond the realm of the senses. It has no power of intellectual organization. For example, an animal located in Europe is not capable of discovering the continent of America. It understands only phenomena which come from within the range of its senses and instinct. It cannot abstractly reason out anything. The animal cannot conceive of the earth being spherical or revolving upon its axis. It cannot apprehend that the little stars in the heavens, are tremendous worlds vastly greater than the earth. The animal cannot abstractly conceive of intellect. These animals, or of these powers, it is bereft. Therefore, these powers are peculiar to man. It is made evident that in the human kingdom there is a reality of which the animal is lacking. What is that reality? It is the spirit of man. By it, man is distinguished above all the other phenomenal kingdoms. Although he possesses the virtues of lower kingdoms, he is also further endowed with the spiritual faculty and the heavenly gift of consciousness. Man is intelligent, instinctively and consciously intelligent. Nature is not. Man is fortified with memory. Nature does not possess it. Man is the discoverer of the mysteries of nature. Nature is not conscious of those mysteries herself. It is evident, therefore, that man is dual in aspect. As animal, he is subject to nature, but in his spiritual or conscious being, he transcends the world of material existence. His spiritual powers, being nobler and higher, possess virtues of which nature intrinsically has no evidence. Therefore, they triumph over natural conditions. These ideal virtues or powers in man surpass or surround nature, comprehend natural laws and phenomena, penetrate the mysteries of the unknown and invisible, and bring forth into the realm of the known and visible. So that was chapter 15. The next chapter is 16, Body, Mind, and Soul. We're going to take some discussion here, but Bahaullahs' teachings on spiritual reality, available for free online, along with a complete reference library. Great place to start is Bahai.org. Take a screenshot of that. And that, if you want to see more. But wow, powerful stuff. Absolutely. Jen, I saw you hopping in the chat. Who's in here right now? Let's take a look here. Somebody's got some Deb. It's not showing me everybody. It's only showing me like a couple people. I don't see how to see everybody. But hello. Feel free to sound off if you like. Wow. I think that's really powerful stuff. Where's my bookmark? Oh, it's still in here. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what we just read here. So I want to also mark the page so I don't lose it. So the animal self and the spiritual self and the material and the spiritual world is a really interesting topic to look at. And Baha'u'llah just teaches it so beautifully in terms of really what it means to be human. Absolutely what it means to be human and what it means to be in existence, and the differences, the phenomenal differences between us and the animal, and the phenomenal differences between the animal and the vegetable, and the phenomenal differences between the vegetable and the clay, and the phenomenal difference between the clay and nothingness, and at the same time teaching the phenomenal unity and connection and journey throughout that. I mean, that section spoke about the honestly, I'll call it the divine journey of the mineral throughout the various different kingdoms. The mineral going into the vegetable, going into the animal, going into the human, going back to the mineral, going back to the vegetable, and so on and so forth in different ways, and taking a moment in the reading to appreciate the beauty of each one of those steps, and the uniqueness of each one of those steps in that journey. um, and I really enjoy being able to think in such a way that allows concepts so on the surface apparently contradictory, like in contradiction with each other, of like things uniqueness and their individuality and their beauty and value for being the perfect version of what they are, at the same time seeing the beauty of their unity and togetherness, right? Those two things, to a lot of people, I think on the surface are in contradiction, like separation or individuality and unity or sameness. Those are opposites. Those are yin yangs, right? Those are forces opposed in the common perception. But then, if that's true, why then do they coexist so beautifully everywhere we look? I think it's because we have misconceptions and ignorance about the nature of contradiction. And I think it speaks to the limitations of our language, as far as really defining what makes two things in conflict with each other, right? And I think that that's really well explored in this section that we just read. And another thing I think it points to is the material world is perfectly designed and follows a perfect law, and will continue to do so, to be the material world. And so to look in the material world for evidence of the spiritual world should be thought of as the same thing as to look for evidence of the tree within the seed. And I think, to me, that implies that it's not impossible. There's a lot you can learn about a tree from looking at a seed, especially with our technology and so on and so forth. But you can't get the full picture. You can't have the tree in front of you until you water it and give it nutrients and light and let it grow and become the tree. So you can get like mere tokens of understanding of its potential from that lower level of its existence and its process of growth, that the seed. But you can't get that whole picture until those other things take place and it's allowed to develop. And the section also points out that the very apparent part of the law of the reality is that things progress. That is part of the divine plan, that things are not just popping into the perfect state, the final state. And if you think about that, to do so would be robbed of time. It would be so apparent to the nature of this place and this plan that we're in, if things were to if they don't have any potential for progression, if they start where they finish, then there's no journey at all. And another way of saying start where you finish is stuck. And I think there's a lot of lessons we can learn from nature and stuff. And, nature is continuing evolving and growing and it's all connected is another thing that was talked about here. How everything is truly connected in like ecosystems and really on every level there's this interconnected web of all of creation. And just like I am just generally blown away by what I'm reading in this book here. And I hope this kind of stuff is exponential, and it's just because it's true and it's logical. When people really open their minds to it and think about it, I think it's helpful, and it's given me a lot of vocabulary to talk about some of these things, and to give context to a lot of these things that I was already experiencing or thinking or kind of spiritually seeking, as far as understanding. And I really am falling in love with Bahai, with Bahaullahs teachings, and just everything about it. I'm just falling in love with it. But I think, from kind of like, I oftentimes kind of put myself in the shoes of like the average Joe, American Joe Smo or whatever, like the culture, okay, to look at things. And I think that there's like this cultural perception, or there's like at least circles of culture where, a lot of people think like Buddhism is really cool and like a way to to get away from some of the trauma they've experienced in other religions or whatever they may have been a part in, or something different, or something more focused on like personal enlightenment and this life. And so it's really attractive to a lot of people, I think. But I think being a Baha'i might be a different way to walk that very similar path, where your focus is essentially enlightenment and growth and learning. And I think it too could be that kind of popular thing, and I think it's becoming that. Apparently, it's the second biggest religion in South Carolina. I've heard that numerous times. I haven't seen anything to dispute it, and that's beautiful. I'm going to have to go to Myrtle Beach or something and investigate. But some would say it's the fastest growing religion in the world. Some would say that's Islam, but I think I've heard it both ways, and I think that's something that's really hard to like objectively quantify. How quickly a faith is growing. Might be able to get a general idea, but it's hard to have accurate numbers. But it doesn't matter. But the idea is that, it's really speaking to people, and I think it's because it's a faith, it's a religion for our time. I think that it is. That people call, people like Baha'u'llah divine physicians, sometimes doctors, right? Sent to diagnose and prescribe treatment for the world, right? And in the 1800s came Baha'u'llah, and he gave his diagnosis, for the world he came into, just like previous messengers and such have. And that's the most recent one. It was recent enough in time that the things that we're reading now, written like 200 years ago, speak so profoundly and deeply to the human condition today. And it's also something that's beautiful to me about Baha'u'llah's teachings, is like it's actually his. It's directly the person who said it writing down. I mean, a lot of the other religions and stuff, it's people who witnessed things or heard things uttered, and then wrote them down or gave an oral tradition or whatever. But this is like his life is documented to the utmost degree. His writings are a whole library. Where he wrote over 1,000 books and tablets, and so did his son, and it's all along these lines, and it's all very true and very understandable, and made at the dawning of this kind of new world that we're in now, for this world to come from that point of view in time, really, I think. And I think it has the potential to really unite a lot of people. And there's a song, and maybe I'll play it for us here, but it's called "What Kind of World Would It Be?" And it's a Bahai song. And that's really a question I ask, because, you start to research and understand the Bahai like goal, on the earth, of this unified humanity, of kindness and cooperation and spiritual growth and technological growth and growth of science and prosperity and all these things, and unification of humanity and the end of war, And you start to really think about, don't think about even the steps from here to there right now. Think about the work, that vision. What kind of world would it be? And I think that starts to inform you of the steps between here and there, and perhaps your place in making it happen. Um, and you have to think that is the most logical thing for us to do. I think the golden rule exists because it just makes logical sense, because the end result is a whole lot of good, right? And we can see clearly, and Bahaullahs speaks about this a lot. If you, I don't know those exact wording, but my words for it are: if you did the opposite, if humanity took on the mantle of the opposite of the golden rule, what would that mean, right? You visualize it. I'm not going to tell you. You visualize what would that mean for humanity. What has it meant for humanity in instances when people behave that way, okay? And I think if you see that as harmful or negative or less than ideal, that should inform you that the other way, the proper golden rule way, is more correct. And then maybe that will inspire you to live it, right? And to reap its benefits and rewards as part of the human species. We can read a bit more. I just wanted to give my eyeballs a break and chit chat a little bit. So we are reading Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality, and we are on chapter 16, which is body, mind, and soul. What the Bahai do believe is that we have three aspects of our humanness, so to speak: a body, a mind, and an immortal identity or soul or spirit. We believe the mind forms a link between the soul and the body, and the two interact on each other. In the world of existence, there is nothing so important as spirit, nothing so essential as the spirit of man. The spirit of man is the most noble of phenomena. The spirit of man is the meeting between man and God. The spirit of man is the animus of human life and the collective center of all human virtues. The spirit of man is the cause of the illumination of this world. It is certain that in man there is a reality which is not the physical body. Sometimes the body becomes weak, but that other reality is in its own normal state. The body goes to sleep, becomes as one dead, but that reality is moving about, comprehending things, expressing them, and is even conscious of itself. This outer and inner reality is called the heavenly body, the ethereal form which corresponds to this body. This is the conscious reality which discovers the inner meaning of things, for the outer body of man does not discover anything. The inner ethereal reality grasps the mysteries of existence, discovers scientific truths, and indicates their technical application. It discovers electricity, produces the telegraph, the telephone, and opens the door of the world of the arts. If the outer material body did this, the animal world likewise would be able to make scientific and wonderful discoveries, for all the animal shares with man all physical powers and limitations. What then is the power which penetrates the realities of existence and which is not to be found in the animal? The inner reality which comprehends things, throws light upon the mysteries of life and being, discovers the heavenly kingdom, and unseals the mysteries of God, and differentiates man from the brute. Of this there can be no doubt. As we have before indicated, this human reality stands between the higher and lower in man, between the world of the animal and the world of divinity. When the animal proclivity in man becomes predominant, he sinks even lower than the brute. When the heavenly powers are triumphant in his nature, he becomes the noblest and most superior being in the world of creation. All the imperfections found in the animal are found in man. In him there is antagonism, hatred, and selfish struggle for existence. In his nature lurk jealousy, revenge, ferocity, cunning, hypocrisy, greed, injustice, and tyranny. So to speak, the reality of man is cloud in the outer garment of the animal, the habiliments of the world of nature, the world of darkness, imperfection, and unlimited baseness. On the other hand, we find him in justice, sincerity, faithfulness, knowledge, wisdom, illumination, mercy, and pity. Coupled with this intellect's comprehension and the power to grasp the realities of things and the ability to penetrate the truths of existence. All of these great perfections are to be found in man. Therefore, we say that man is a reality which stands between the light and darkness. From this standpoint, his nature is threefold: animal, human, and divine. The animal nature is darkness. The heavenly is light in light. The human spirit, which distinguishes man from the animal, is the rational soul. And these two names, the human spirit and the rational soul, designate one thing. The spirit, which is the terminology of the philosophers, is the rational soul, embraces all beings, and as far as human ability permits, discovers the reality of things and becomes cognizant of their peculiarities and effects, and of the qualities and properties of beings, but the human spirit, unless assisted by the spirit of faith, does not become acquainted with the divine secrets and heavenly realities. It is like a mirror which, although clear, polished, and brilliant, is in still of need of light. Until a ray of the sun reflects upon it, it cannot discover the most heavenly secrets. But the mind is the power of the human spirit. Spirit is the lamp. Mind is the light which shines from the lamp. Spirit is the tree, and the mind is the fruit. The mind is the perfection of the spirit and is the essential quality, as the sun's rays are the essential necessity of the sun. A soul or spirit of individual comes into being with the conception of his physical body. Know thou that the soul of man is exalted above and is independent of all infirmities of mind or body. That a sick person showeth signs of weakness is due to the hindrance that impose themselves between his soul and body. For the soul itself remaineth unaffected by any bodily ailments. Consider the light of the lamp. Though an external object may interfere with its radiance, the light itself continueth to shine undiminished in power. In like manner, every malady affecting the body of man is an impotent and prevalent the soul from manifesting its inherent might and power. When it leaveth the body, however, it invents such ascendancy and reveals such influence as no force on earth can equal. Every pure, every refined and sanctified soul will be endowed with tremendous power and shall rejoice with exceeding gladness. Consider a lamp which is hidden under a bushel. Though this light be shining, its radiance is concealed from men. Likewise, consider the sun which hath been obscured by the clouds. Observe how its splendor appeareth to have diminished, when in reality the source of that light hath remained unchanged. The soul of the man should be likened unto this sun, and all things on earth should be regarded as his body, so long as no external impediment interveneth between them. The body will in its entirety continue to reflect the light of the soul, and to be sustained by its power. As soon as, however, a veil interposeth itself between them, the brightness of that light seemeth to lessen. Consider again the sun, when it is completely hidden behind the clouds. Though the earth is still illumined by its light, yet the measure of light which it receiveth is considerably reduced. Not until the clouds have dispersed can the sun shine again in the plenitude of its glory. Neither the presence of the cloud nor its absence can in any way affect the inherent splendor of the sun. The soul of the man is the sun by which its body is illumined, and from which it draweth its substance, and should be so regarded. Consider, moreover, how the fruit, ere it formeth, lieth potentially within the tree. Were the tree to be cut into pieces, no sign nor any part of the fruit, however small, could be detected. When it appeareth, however, it manifested itself, and thou hast observed its wondrous beauty and glorious perfection. Certain fruits, indeed, attain their fullest development only after being severed from the tree. Some think that the body is the substance and exists by itself, and that the spirit is accidental and depends on the substance of the body. Although on the contrary, the rational soul is the substance, and the body depends upon it. If the accident, that is to say, the body, be destroyed, the substance, the spirit, remains. The rational soul, meaning the human spirit, does not descend into the body, that is to say, it does not enter it, for descent and entrance are characteristics of bodies, and the rational soul is exempt from this. The spirit never entered the body, so in quitting it, it will not be in need of an abiding place. No, the spirit is connected with the body, as this light is with this mirror. When the mirror is clear and perfect, the light of the lamp will be apparent in it, and when the mirror becomes covered with dust or breaks, the light will disappear. The rational soul, that is to say, the human spirit, has neither entered this body nor existed through it. So after the degradation of the composition of the body, how should it be in need of substance through which it may exist? On contrary, the rational soul is the substance through which the body exists. The personality of the rational soul is from its beginning. It is not due to the instrumentality of the body, but the state and the personality of the rational soul may be strengthened in this world. It will make progress and attain to the degrees of perfection. It will remain in the lowest abyss of ignorance, veiled and deprived from beholding the signs of God. Verily I say, the human soul is in its essence one of the signs of God, a mystery among his mysteries. It is one of the mighty steps of the Almighty, the harbinger that proclaimeth the reality of all worlds of God. Within it lieth concealed that which the world is now utterly incapable of apprehending. Whew. That was beautiful. I really enjoyed that I enjoyed the whole thing, but that last section, the spirit never entered this body. So in quitting it, it does not be in need of an abiding place. The spirit is connected to the body. I've had this thought and in 100 different ways before, and it's beautiful to read this here and put better than I've thought it before, I think. I like the idea that the human form is as antenna, a receiver of the spirit. Kind of like, we have drones now, right? If your drone is destroyed, it doesn't destroy you, the operator, right? I think is kind of what it's saying. And if you shatter a mirror, the light it was reflecting is not damaged or affected. Like the source of the light, the sun in this case, is not damaged. And then earlier in the section, it talks about, to paraphrase, the clouds moving in front of the sun does not affect the sun. And so as an analogy, as lessons to be learned from the world around us, the nature of your soul, of our soul, right? I was kind of feeling like taking a break at that, but the next section's title is calling my name. The next section is chapter 17, and it's called The Nature of God. So we're reading Bahaullahs' teachings on spiritual reality. It's available for free online. You can Google just the name if you like. You can save yourself the apostrophes. Google will figure it out depending on what kind of keyboard you have or if you're used to doing that. But Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality, there's your chance at a screenshot, available for free if you want it. So, like I said, I was going to take a break, but the title of this next section is The Nature of God, and I feel like that's worth exploring, weary or not. I think it might give us some energy to do so, even. So, chapter 17, The Nature of God. God, in his essence and in his own self, hath never been unseen, inaccessible, and unknowable. Consider the rational faculty with which God hath endowed the essence of man. Examine thine own self, and behold how thy motion and stillness, thy will and purpose, thy sight and hearing, thy sense of smell and power of speech, and whatever else is related to or transcendent thy physical senses or spiritual perception, all proceed from and owe their existence to this same faculty. So closely they are related unto it that if in less than the twinkling of an eye its relationship to the human body be severed, each and every one of these senses will cease immediately to exercise its function, and will be deprived of the power to manifest the evidences of its activity. It is indubitably clear and evident that each of these are aforementioned instruments has depended and will ever continue to depend for its proper functioning on this rational faculty, which should be regarded as a sign of the revelation of him who is the sovereign Lord of all. Through its manifestation, all these names and attributes have been revealed, and by the suspension of its action, they are all destroyed and perish. It would be wholly untrue to maintain that this faculty is the same as the power of vision, insomuch as the power of vision is derived from it and acteth in dependence upon it. It would likewise be idle to contend that this faculty can be identified with the sense of hearing, as the sense of hearing receiveth the rational faculty as the requisite energy for performing its functions. This same relationship bindeth this faculty with whatsoever hath been the recipient of these names and attributes within the human temple. These diverse names and revealed attributes have been generated through the agency of the sign of God, immeasurably exalted in this sign, in essence and reality, above all such names and attributes, nay, all else besides it will, when compared with its glory, fade into utter nothingness and become a thing forgotten. Wert thou to ponder in thine heart from now until the end hath no end, with all the concentrated intelligence and understanding which the greatest minds have attained in the past or will attain in the future, this divinely ordained and subtle reality, this sign of revelation of the all-abiding, all-glorious God, thou wilt fail to comprehend its mystery or appraise its virtue. Wow. Having recognized thy powerlessness to obtain an adequate understanding of that reality which abideth within thee, thou wilt readily admit the futility of such efforts to be attempted by thee or by any of the created things to fathom the mystery of the living God, the day star of unfading glory, the ancient and of everlasting days, the confession of helplessness which mature contemplation must eventually impel every mind to make itself the acme of human understanding, and mark as the culmination of man's development. No lower degree can understand a higher, such comprehension being impossible. The higher plane, however, understandeth the lower. The animal, for instance, comprehendeth the mineral and vegetable. The human understandeth the planes of the animal, the vegetable, and the mineral. But the mineral cannot possibly understand the realms of man. And notwithstanding the fact that all of these entities coexist in the phenomenal world, even so, no lower degree can ever comprehend a higher. then how could it be possible for a contingent reality, that is man, to understand the nature of that pre-existing essence, the divine being? The difference in station between man and the divine reality is thousands upon thousands of times greater than the difference between a vegetable and an animal, and that which a human being would conjure up in his mind, but the fanciful image of his condition. It doth not encompass God's reality, but rather is encompassed by it. That is, man grasps his own illusionary concepts, but the reality of divinity can never be grasped. How shall we know God? We know him by his attributes. We know him by his signs. We know him by his names. We know not what the reality of the sun is, but we know the sun by the ray, by the heat, by its efficiency and penetration. We recognize the sun by its bounty and effluence, but as what constitutes the reality of solar energy, that is unknowable to us. The attributes characterizing the sun, however, are knowable. If we wish to come in touch with the reality of divinity, we do so by recognizing its phenomena, its attributes and traces, which are widespread in the universe. It's powerful stuff, friends. Beautiful stuff, but powerful stuff. The reality of the divinity is hidden from all comprehension and concealed from the minds of all men. It is absolutely impossible to ascend to that plane. Nevertheless, we speak of the names and attributes of the divine reality. We praise him by attending to his sight, hearing, power, life, and knowledge. We affirm these names and attributes not to prove the perfections of God, but to deny that he is capable of perfection. When we look at the existing world, we see that ignorance is imperfection and knowledge is perfection. Therefore, we say that the sanctified essence of God is wisdom, weakness is imperfection, and power is perfection. Consequently, we say that the sanctified essence of God is the acme of power. It is not that we can comprehend his knowledge, his sight, his power, and life. It is beyond our comprehension, for the essential names and attributes of God are identical with his essence, and his essence is above all comprehension. Praise be to God, the eternal that perisheth not, the everlasting that declineth not, the subsisting that altereth not. He is who is transcendent in his sovereignty, who is manifest through his signs and hidden through his mysteries. He it is who hath revealed his cause for the guidance of his creatures, and sent down his verses to demonstrate his proof and his testimony. The door of knowledge of the ancient being hath ever been, and will continue forever to be, closed in the face of men. No man's understanding shall ever again gain access unto his holy court. As a token of his mercy, however, as proof of his loving kindness, he hath manifested unto men the day stars of his divine guidance, the symbols of his divine unity, and hath ordained the knowledge of these sanctified beings to be identical with the knowledge of his own self. Whoso recognizes them hath recognized God. Whoso hearkened to their call hath hearkened to the voice of God. And whoso testifieth to the truth of their revelation has testified to the truth of God himself. Whoso turneth away from them hath turned away from God, and whoso disbelieveth in them hath disbelieved in God. Every one of them is the way of God that connecteth this world with the realms above, and the standard of his truth unto every one of the kingdoms of earth and heaven. They are manifestations of God amongst men, the evidences of his truth, the signs of his glory. In the Word of God, there is still another unity, the oneness of the manifestations of God. Abraham, Moses, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Bahaullahs. This is the unity divine, heavenly, radiant, merciful, the reality appearing to its successive manifestations. For instance, the sun is one and the same, but its points of dawning are various. During the summer season, it rises from the northern point of the ecliptic. In winter, it appears from the southern point of rising. Each month between, it appears from a certain zodiacal position. Although these drawings are different, the sun is the same sun which has appeared from them all. Bahaullahs proclaims unequivocally the existence of oneness of a personal God, unknowable, inaccessible, in the source of all revelation, eternal, omnipotent, omnipresent, and almighty. That innermost spirit of spirits and eternal essence of essences, that invisible yet rational God who, however much we extol the divinity of his manifestations on earth, can in no wise incarnate his infinite and unknowable, his incorruptible and all embracing. Reality is the concrete and limited frame of a mortal being. Indeed, God who could so incarnate his own reality would, in the light of teachings of Baha'u'llah, cease immediately to be God. Wow. So crude and fantastic a theory of divine incarnation as removed from and incompatible with the essentials of Baha'i beliefs are of no less inadmissible pantheistic and anthropomorphic conceptions of God, both of which are the utterances of Baha'u'llah emphatically repudiate in the fallacy of which they expose. What is meant by personal God is a God who is conscious of his creation, who has a mind, a will, a purpose, and not, as many scientists and materialists believes, an unconscious and determined force operating in the universe. Such conception of the divine being as the supreme and ever-present reality of the world is not anthropomorphic. It transcends all human limitations in form and does not mean to attempt to divine the essence of divinity, which is obviously beyond any human comprehension. To say that God is a personal reality does not mean that he has a physical form or does not in any way resemble a human being. Wow. That's just powerful. My voice is getting really tired, so we probably are going to have to take a break from the reading. But great stuff. That is Baha'u'llah's teachings on spiritual reality. And that chapter was basically titled, Who is God? Yeah, the nature of God. And how many pages is that? 1, 2, 3 pages front and back, 6 pages of that size book to describe the nature of God. I think they did a pretty good job. And I think that a lot of the library of Baha'u'llah and the library of humanity spends a lot of time exploring the same ideas. And of course they would, because it's an infinite concept. And that section explicitly calls out God as at least one quality we can infer, a token, as being infinite, right? And I think that that is a fundamental thing to consider. If something is so large that it's infinite, where is there room for something apart from that? And I guess here's a question for thought and internally, but is there room for something besides the infinite? Does infinity take up all the room? Is maybe another to do that. And I think for me, that informs that all there is contained within the concept of infinity. And it kind of just it's just like a framework, a logical background for understanding of our place, our very, very seemingly big to us, but very small relative to the size of infinity, which never stops. So anything, however big it is, seems very small within the infinite, our place within the infinite, our token within the infinite, and within God and with God. And, many different kinds of leaves on the tree, all coming from the same stem, that kind of thing. Ooh. Well, we read quite a few chapters here we're definitely, I think, past the halfway mark. I feel like we're as far past the halfway mark as we were before the halfway mark when we started with this reading. So we're getting there. Again, I'm reading this for the first time, Bahaullah's teachings on spiritual reality. And I really enjoyed this section. I really enjoyed all of the sections. I've been meaning to highlight and put in sticky notes and stuff, but you got to be careful when you go, if when you really like something you're reading and you start to think about highlighting it, because once you start and if you really like it, you're just going to end up with a whole highlighted page, and that defeats the purpose of highlighting. Thanks for the likes. Um, so that's what I've been doing. I am going to have to take a break here, though. This is what they always do. People come in right when I'm about to take a break here. I'll probably be back later today. I'll definitely be back tomorrow. I'm trying to, it would probably be nice to finish this tomorrow with you. It is available for free online. Another recommendation while I have you here is this, The Seven Valleys and the Four Valleys. Quite short, worth the read, available for free. I got the hard copy here, which both for me, I was reading it for free while I was waiting for it to arrive, actually, and then I finished it in person. This is a really nice one. I mean, it's pretty big text, but very, very good. Like I said, Baha'u'llah wrote a whole lot, thousands of books and tablets in his life, so I have a lot of reading to do. But so we're getting through basics and really enjoying it. And potentially here too, we'll probably have opportunity to have some friends on the live stream and have some back and forth discussions with people. And really, that's if you are somebody who wants to have some discussions or talk about the stuff that we've been talking about, anytime we can also do that as well on these streams and videos and such. So much appreciate y'all. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Check out my actual videos in the meantime. We don't have to part. I have to part for now, but you don't have to part if you don't want to, and that's pretty cool. And to each according to their time and their ability, right? So much love to you. Lots out there for you. And